Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. We are in the beautiful Mount Theater. A little bit windy. I'm like a little bit windy. Whatever. It's going to sound like a wind tunnel, this whole conversation. But you know what? The Cork Taylor Wine Podcast is authentic. It's real. It's raw. It's uncorking the lighter side of wine. And who else better to have the world famous in parts of Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Mount Theater, where we are, who's having trouble opening a wine cork. Thank God he makes good wine. Aaron Pott, welcome to the Cork and Taylor Wine Podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Lou.
It is. It's a little bit dark, but the sun's going down. It's all my fault. You know, if there was more straight roads coming up here, I would have been here like an hour early.
We tried to straighten them out for you. Nobody cooperated.
So you've got a very, 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 very... first of all, I've started following you on social media, on Instagram. I love it. You're a great family man. You know, you got your daughters in there, and you've got, you know, your wife on the... It's Aaron and Claire Pott and daughters.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, it's as much theirs as it is mine, so it's fun to have them part of it.
You missed something. It is all theirs.
Yeah, maybe it is all theirs.
You don't understand. When you have daughters and you're married, it's all theirs. Like, you know, I've got 3 kids, 11, 7, and 5, a daughter and 2 sons. And I tell you, if I was dead on the ground, they would just walk over. And probably the same for you, too.
Yeah, I think so.
But if it was your wife, oh, my God, what's wrong with mom? Who cares about that? So UC Davis.
Yes.
That's a decent school for basketball.
A terrible school for basketball.
Do you ever think they should change the name? Whatever. What's their nickname? UC Davis's nickname?
Well, they call themselves the Aggies, but they're really the Mustangs.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Weirdly enough.
Shouldn't they be called like the winemakers? The winos.
I would like that. I mean, you know, the Santa Cruz, they call them the banana slugs,
yes.
which I think is
pretty
cool.
I love that.
And I think maybe they need the winemakers,
something.
the wine presses or something.
The corkscrews. So really, and then you got a master's from University of Burgundy. What the hell do they know about wine out there?
Well, I mean, that was the most important reason to go out to Burgundy.
Well, obviously.
And it really was a guy named Kees van Leeuwen who was the viticulturalist at the time for Cheval Blanc. And Kees van Leeuwen said to me, if you want to learn how to grow grapes, learn how to grow Pinot Noir, and you'll know how to grow every grape. And so I decided that I would go to his alma mater, University of Burgundy, and it was a real dynamic time at the University of Burgundy when I went there, because all of this research into resveratrol was going on, and that all started at the University of Burgundy.
Wow. So you don't make any Pinot?
No.
Do you like Pinot?
I love Pinot.
Yeah.
Every winemaker loves Pinot, I think.
Do they? Nah, you really think so?
I do, yeah. Maybe I'm wrong, but everyone I talk to has a closet Pinot lust.
Yes.
That they need to get out somehow.
But you make Pinot for some of your clients, correct, or no?
No, I've never made Pinot except for I made my first Pinot in 2020.
Really?
And I've always thought, you know, Pinot is too far away. The vineyards are too far away from Napa Valley to make great Pinot Noir. And I finally I went on a surf expedition in Mendocino County, and I passed by a bunch of vineyards that I like the look of, and finally found a friend who was interested in selling the grapes from a vineyard in Anderson Valley, and I jumped on it. I thought, I'll make a couple tons and make it as weird as I possibly can. So 2020, we're going to have a Pinot Noir.
What a great year to drink, right?
Yeah. Yes.
What do you call it? The pandemic Pinot?
Yeah, the fire pandemic. The biblical Pinot.
What do you think is going to happen with the 2020 vintage? I mean, let's be honest. Do you think it's going to be? I mean, the wine quality is going to be great, right? I mean, let's be honest. But
let's be honest. I mean, I have very few wines that are not smoke tainted from 2020.
Yeah.
And I cannot put them in a bottle and say this is a Pott wine. So what I'm going to do, the wines are delicious, but they're smoke tainted. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a very inexpensive label that I'm going to call Pott Smoke. And I'm going to sell it to people for Tuesday night wines,
oh my God.
Vin de table.
Well, I mean, would the average person know smoke taint?
No, I mean 25% of the population can't even taste it. So it's something that's pretty unique to people that know wine. But I know it's there, and I can't put a wine in a bottle that I know is bad.
So smoke pot.
Yeah. So I think
smoke pot red, smoke pot white.
Just smoke pot red.
Really?
Yeah.
But we're drinking white. I didn't realize you made a white.
Yeah. Well, this is a Viognier that I make. It's from the estate here, Châteauneuf-du-Pape.
Châteauneuf-du-Pape.
And it's...
is that trademarked?
No.
I'm going to go trademark it.
It's 100% Viognier. And we ferment and age it in clay amphora. So it's a little different style than most people are used to with Viognier.
Why Viognier up here? I mean, we're mountain fruit.
Cold climate. I had a place on my property that was cooler than every other parcel on the property. And it's at the very top of an old growth redwood grove. So the tops of the redwood trees are sort of in the vineyard and create a different climate for that section of vineyard. And I thought of planting Syrah there, but I have wonderful neighbors who I've known for 35 years, Leger Meredith, that make a fantastic Syrah.
Did you hear what they say about you? I'm just kidding.
I didn't want to compete with them, and although they would have been perfectly fine with it, they're very good friends.
Right.
And so I thought, I love Viognier, and I'd love to make a style of Viognier that's a little bit more acid-driven, a little bit crisper. And, if I have a terrible vintage where we have tons of rot, I can always make a sweet wine from it. So
there you go. Seems like you got good fallbacks on if wines aren't that good or smoke tainted or whatever.
We've got a lot of ideas.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Do you ever throw any Viognier in any of your red wines?
No.
Because that seems like it's becoming more popular. Maybe not in Napa so much, but I'm seeing that in Paso. You're seeing more like little bits of 1%, 2% Viognier.
Yeah, I mean, it's traditional. You could throw into Côte Rôtie as much as 15% Viognier.
Really?
Yeah, so it's a traditional thing to do. And you can see how it would flesh out a Syrah in certain vintages. But no, that's not our interest. Just to make the purest Viognier possible is what I'm all about.
So you had an internship at Robert Mondavi.
I did, yeah.
What was that like? Because, I mean, Robert was probably around back then and involved in The Godfather and everything else.
I mean, I've crossed paths with Bob quite a lot in my life, and that was really the first time. I got hired for two vintages, 88 and 89, by Steve Leger of Leger Meredith, and I was hired as a grape sampler, and then I would
How do you get that job?
I'd go from grape sampler to working in the laboratory.
Oh, God.
And it was fabulous.
Oh, I'm sure.
I would set up the tastings for the winemakers, and then you would take all the wines that they had tasted, and they were tasting amazing wines. I mean, you would have all of the Romanée Conti wines from 3 different vintages, all of the Grand Cru, Médocs.
So what you're saying is you like to go to work every day.
47 Cheval Blanc.
Oh, God.
And I would do analysis on all these. So I would know all the numbers on all these wines. I made a huge book that I still have of all the analysis that I did on all of these wines. And it really changed how I perceived wine. I mean, how I perceived the pH of a wine from California and a wine from France, and it's completely mind-bending. Great to work with the Mondavi family too. I got to work with them later on, making the first Continuum wines.
Oh yeah, I know them well.
In the early 2000s.
Really? I
yeah.
didn't realize that. Cool.
And those were sort of the last days of Bob. And Bob would pull up a chair by the tanks, and we would do pump overs, and he would watch, and it was great. I mean, I love the family, nice people. You know?
What's the best advice he probably gave you? Not probably, but what's the best advice? I mean, I'm sure you probably heard a lot of, Robertisms. I'm going to make that word up, but like what's some good advice he gave you?
I think the best advice that he ever gave me was to look outside of California.
Really?
Always be looking outside of California, for new influences and so on. And,
that's interesting.
And I thought that was smart. I mean, I think what made Robert Mondavi great was the fact that he was so in touch with what was going on, especially in Bordeaux. And he knew that was going to become the major influence of California for the time that he was really active. And I think he really studied Bordeaux well, and that was a smart move. And I don't think it's the same anymore. I don't think California looks at Bordeaux in the same way as it used to. But I think for his era, it certainly was that.
Do you find that California looks at California?
Maybe California is looking in the mirror a little bit too much. But I think more people need to look at their own properties rather than looking outside.
Right. You got a decent property.
Yeah.
That was a really cool tour of what's planted and how it's planted, and you got Spain and Portugal and England, and I guess take some of the four listeners that are going to listen to it. It's not going to be anybody I know. Take me through the naming of that, why it was that. I mean, it's really remarkable.
Yeah. So I mean, what I realized when I cleared the area for the vineyard was that it was kind of shaped like a map of Europe. And it was just easier to explain to people where the different blocks were by the country that they were representing. So unfortunately, I have the entire Italian peninsula has sunk into the Adriatic.
Kind of like I said, Venice.
Yeah.
It's the rest of it. I think Rome's still there. The Vatican's still there.
Yes, and will be there forever.
Yes,
probably.
Everything else will sink around it, but the Vatican will be propped up.
I'm sure, yeah. But so it was just an easier way to explain where the grapes were and so on. Each block has a different name from the country it represents. But
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. So then you went over to your assistant winemaker at Newton Vineyards with some guy named John Consgard.
Some fabulous guy.
Yeah,
what a great
I mean, he
person.
Is very well respected.
Yeah, and deserves to be even more well respected than he is. Great winemaker, great viticulturalist, great winemaker, great person. I mean, I learned so much from John.
What are a couple of the things you took from working under him?
I learned about vineyards for really the first time. I mean, the practical work of vineyards from John. And I mean, we had it really lucky. It was it was just he and I was his assistant. And I was hired by the Newtons themselves without John's permission. And
who's the new guy?
Yeah, exactly. It was exactly that.
Thank you.
And John was concerned that I was going to be a disaster because the Newtons were not easy people to work with. And so he called me up the day I was supposed to come, the day before I was supposed to come to work, and he said, I'm going to really decide if you're going to work here or not.
Oh God!
And for some reason, I was listening to Mahler's Fifth Symphony in the car as I was driving up. And John's a huge classical music fan, and I had it cranking and drove up to the winery, and this big, tall guy comes out of the cellar, and I ask him, do you know where John Kongsgaard's office is? And he looks at me and he says, Mahler's Fifth Symphony. Are you Aaron? And I said, yeah. And he says, I don't need to talk to you. You're hired. Welcome. and straight after that, he included me in everything he did. And we had, we had totally overpriced consultants. Dominique Lafont worked with us on the white wines.
Aren't most consultants overpriced?
Yes. Michel Roland worked with us on the red wines.
No, never heard of him.
I got to spend every tasting working with John with those characters. Some great people came by. The Newtons had collected a lot of wine. They gave us a lot of money to buy a lot of wine. So there was lots of tastings going on. And Michel Roland was so bored when he came over, and his English was so bad that I used to invite him to all sorts of events, and John would invite him to events. And we got to become very close friends, and that's really what got me to France.
Mm-hmm. Were you accepted as an American in Bordeaux?
No. I mean, think about it. You're an American. I mean, I was 25.
I'm Canadian, and they don't accept me in America, even though I'm a citizen now. I mean, let's be honest.
I was 25 years old.
Yeah.
An American in France, doing something that the French consider their area of expertise. Mm-hmm. So no, I was not accepted. There were a lot of jokes about McDonald's.
That's huge over there.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing.
Yeah.
They knock McDonald's, but Le Grande Mac.
Yeah.
Mayonnaise or ketchup with your French fries. I mean, it's crazy.
I'll go with aioli.
Oh, yeah. Aioli. So what was it like over there? I mean, you obviously worked at, what is it, Chateau Tropolon Mendot? Is that what it is?
That would be pretty close.
Yeah, well,
I mean, come on, you're a Canadian. You should
French
speak French.
Canadian, yeah, whatever. Le Grenouille, as we call him. I know it's not Grenouille, but so what was it like over there?
Well, Trollon-Mondot was extraordinary. I mean, I didn't, Michel. When I asked him to find me a job over there, he called me about a week later and said, "I've got the perfect job for you," and he had me meet the owners of Trollon-Mondot at the airport. And I didn't realize that I was interviewing for the position of winemaker until I actually drove onto the property. And so it was all very mysterious. And, if Michel Roland says you can do it, they're going to hire you. So I was hired. It was not easy. It was very intense 6 years in France.
What brought you back?
My mom.
Yeah.
My parents.
Yeah, I get it.
My mother called me up one day, and she said, I saw the weirdest job classified ad in the San Francisco newspaper. And she said, it's asking for a winemaker that speaks French, Spanish, and Italian. I was like, wow, Mom, that sounds really weird. So I sent your resume in.
No, she did not. Your booking agent, your talent agent. There you go.
And she really wanted me to come back, and I was quite frankly ready to return.
Yeah.
And so this job she found me was working with Beringer Wine Estates at the time, and it was doing all of their overseas winemaking. So they had projects in Chile, Argentina,
Really?
Italy, and France. And I was kind of then constantly on planes searching for the endless fall, and worked for the 2 projects in Chile, a couple vineyard projects in Argentina. We had 3 projects in Italy, and a project in France. And I did that for the next 3 years before they decided to throw Saint Clement here in St. Helena on top of that. I didn't think I had enough to do.
Yeah, and you didn't get a pay raise either, huh?
No, of course not.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But so you've got just a world of experience, obviously. When did you kind of start the Pott label? When did that kind of dream happen?
So I was working at Quintessa as the winemaker general manager there. I started there in 2004. And in 2007, I had purchased Châteauneuf-du-Pape in 2004, and I was ready to make my own wines. And I decided to start consulting. And I talked to Philippe Melka, and I said, Philippe, I'm thinking about starting my own consulting business. He said, oh, no, you don't want to do that. There are way too many consultants and not enough work. And 2 days later, I had found 3 consulting clients. And Quintessa became the first consulting clients. And then I found Fisher Vineyards.
Oh, really?
Seven Stones Winery.
Coach Insignia.
Yeah, Coach Insignia.
I love I love Fisher Vineyards.
Yeah, and then Seven Stones and Blackbird all in the same.
Yeah, those are 3
in the
pretty.
Same day.
That's funny. There's not enough work yet. You got 3 very good wineries.
Yeah, and that was fun. I mean, it was great to sort of leave an estate property and get out there and see what was going on in the rest of the valley.
Yeah. How difficult is now? You said you have 11 clients now?
Yeah.
Do you still do Fisher?
No.
Okay, but you still do Blackbird. Yeah.
Yes.
How does that work? If you have that many clients, I mean, I'm sure there's varying levels of what you're doing for them and stuff like that, or is it all the same? How do you manage it?
It's very different from each client. I mean, a perfect example is I work with a winery called St. Helena Winery, and St. Helena Winery has its own winemaker, Lindsay Wallingford, and she runs the vineyard as well. And so she is looking to me for inspiration to do blending, new ideas, so on. So that's a pretty simple project. You know, I've been working with them since 2010. Something like Seven Stones, which I've been working with since 2007, we're making the wine. My team, which is essentially myself and my assistant Eric Hagiard, we're essentially making the wine from start to finish there, and overseeing the vineyard manager there and so on. So it's a lot more hands-on. It's a lot more direct work. So each one is different. You know, again, Blackbird has its own winemaker, day-to-day winemaker, Kyle Mizuno, who worked with me as my enologist at Quintessa, and who I moved over, and then worked with me with the consulting as well. But then I moved over to Blackbird to be the day-to-day winemaker there, and I will, see him every day and go over what we need to discuss, and he'll take care of the simple work throughout the week. And when we need to get together to taste wines, which is about once a week, we get together.
I feel like your schedule, like your calendar is like this big.
It's big.
It's like huge. And that's like, there's 5 pages for one day.
It's big, yeah.
Do you ever get confused you're in the wrong place at the wrong time?
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the time.
So how do you focus, I guess, on your own brand?
I mean, it's quite easy. So much of my own brand is integrated into the consulting work that I do. My own property we use for 4 of the vineyards that I work with. I have the same crew working on this property that works on those 4 properties, and so it's easy to manage that aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I make my wine in the same winery that I make all of my clients' wines that don't own a winery.
Yeah, that's
so
nice.
We're all in one place. It's very slick and easy to do.
Yeah. Are you taking any more clients?
It depends. I get a lot of people that call me up and say, we want to make a 100-point wine. And I mean, first of all, I've never made a 100-point wine. I don't even know what that's all about.
Yeah.
And nor do I care to make one.
Yeah.
But they're totally interested in that. And you ask them, the next question is obviously, well, where are your vineyards? And most of the time they say,
Maryland.
well, we thought you would take care of that.
Yeah, my vineyards are in my front yard. I've got an acre planted in Maryland. You know?
Yeah. Okay, we'll make it 100.1.
Oh my gosh.
And I have a great list of clients, people that have been with me a long time. They've got great vineyards. I'm happy with whom I'm working with. So I'd like to continue that. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great to work with these things, especially when a lot of the vineyards, I planted from the very beginning. A lot of the vineyards at Seven Stones, I planted, I designed, I laid out. Perlis, planted, laid it out. Fee Vineyards, planted, laid it out.
Yeah, awesome. All right, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with Mr. Pott. All right, we're back with Aaron Pott. We're drinking another one of his fine wines. So what are we drinking right now? And I love your logo, too. I think it's really cool.
It's actually stolen.
I don't know what the hell it is, but first of all, what is the logo?
Okay, so the logo is the signature of a painter from the 16th century, 15th and 16th century, a guy named Lucas Cranach. And have you ever seen a picture of Martin Luther, the Protestant reformer? Mm-hmm. So you've seen a picture by Lucas Cranach because he was Cranach's neighbor, and Cranach used his daughter, who was rumored to be very beautiful, as a model. And so I don't think he had much contact with other women because every woman in all of his paintings looks exactly the same. But so I had a friend that had a painting by Cranach, and it was called Bacchus at the Wine Vat.
Ooh.
And I love this painting. It was absolutely gorgeous and showed a sort of decrepit Bacchus with all of these naked children around him.
Oh, wonderful.
And an old crone lady trying to round up all these naked crying children. And then this beautiful woman lying
sounds like my house.
In front of the wine vat. Yeah, sounds like my house.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's house in America.
So, but then I looked in the corner, and at the same time we were looking for a symbol for our vineyard that we had called Incubo, and we've found this symbol in the corner of this painting, and it looks like a dragon holding a ring. So it'd be a little tiny dragon, that you wouldn't fear so much. And
a friendly dragon.
Yeah, and an incubo in English is someone that spends the night guarding a temple, or someone that hoards a treasure. And so we were kind of looking for that symbol, and a dragon seems like something that would hoard a treasure, even if it was small.
Right. That's interesting. Very thought-provoking.
Yeah.
Too thought-provoking for my educational level. But you know what?
Drink more wine.
I will, for sure. I get prettier and skinnier, and a lot more tolerable. So my wife says.
My wife has a quote on her wall of the office that she works out of that says, "You're a great dancer. Wine."
You know what's funny to go back? You're talking about the photos of how, they do these photos in the olden days. And you'd see these photos, and they all look, very elegant. You'd love to see how really ugly and fat and just different they looked. When, I don't think the photos really do it justice. I think they make them look a lot better. They all have nice teeth. No one had nice teeth in the 1600s in England. I'm sorry.
No, no one has nice teeth in England now.
Oh, be careful now. I got a lot of British family members. I think we have like 2 fans in Britain. I apologize.
My wife is British. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, there you go. Hopefully she doesn't listen.
She has great teeth, though, I have to say.
Yeah.
She may be the only one.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So which one of, I guess, so you make how many different wines under the Pott label? 3? We just tried them all?
So I make 4 wines off of the estate.
Okay.
It's the Viognier that's called 20 meters cubed. Mm-hmm. I make a Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon Merlot blend that's called Space and Time. And I make a Cabernet Sauvignon dominant wine called Incubo, which we're drinking now. That's this guy. Mm-hmm. And then I also make a natural wine that's 100% Cabernet Franc, so no added sulfur dioxide, and it's made and aged in amphora. So it's and it's a bit of a rare bird. We only make about 60 cases of that wine.
And soon you're going to be making a fifth. It's called Pot Smoke.
Well, just 1 year only.
Can you imagine if that takes off? What would you do if it takes off?
It's just nothing.
No. Just try to find the worst grapes you can find for the cheap and just put it in a label?
No, I could never do that. I'm terrible at that kind of stuff.
So let me ask you, so you've been in the valley for a long time, in Napa Valley for a long time. What have you seen, what have you noticed, or what is the difference from when you first started to now? I mean, is there a lot of there's a lot more damn wineries, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I mean...
It's a lot more competitive, and there's a lot more money thrown at it, but...
When I first came into the Napa Valley as a boy, I mean, there were a handful of wineries, and now there's 900 some odd wineries.
Isn't that crazy? How are they all making it?
I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, I think a lot of it is just a joke, you know. They're not really focused on making wine. They're just interested in making tourism and making money. And I think that's one thing where we are separating ourselves from a lot of wineries, is that this is it's a serious endeavor. You know, I've been making wine all my life. It's the only thing I know how to do. So, and
so you're unemployable in any other field or industry, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
Me too.
Perfect. Wine.
We should start a company together. We could do trolley tours, in the bay.
Cork, Taylor, and Pott. I think.
Yeah. Cork and Pott. That might not be good. I mean, how is stylistically, has your winemaking changed over the years? Or have you been pretty focused in what you've always done?
I think I've gone more towards the purity. What excites me about wine is that it comes from a place, and that's never going to change. And to me, I have to make the wine show that place as much as I possibly can. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to use anything that's not a grape in my wine. So I want to make that transition as clear as possible. So I think the purity is to me what's I'm getting more pure. Mm-hmm. And I think we used to use more machinery, and now we're using less. And going from doing pump overs to hand punching down, a lot of hand selecting, and it's more time consuming, but I find that what we get out of the wine is fantastic. And a good example, in 2017, we lost power at the winery. It didn't change anything for us. Because of the fires, all the power went out in the valley, and that didn't change anything for my winemaking because I don't use any power to make it.
Are you Amish? You ever been asked that before?
No, that's a first for me.
First and hopefully last.
I'm absolutely not Amish.
So what would you say is the Aaron Pott thumbprint? If I'm having an Aaron Pott wine, whether it's Blackbird, whether it's Pott family, whether it's whatever it is, what is that kind of stamp? What would you say you want to be known for, or what do people know you for?
I want to be the man behind the curtain. I don't want to be known for anything. I think that's been a problem in wine for a long time, is that people come to it thinking, I'm going to be a star,
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they say, you're Aaron Pott, rock star winemaker. And that's the last thing I want to be. What I want to be is...
You clean the toilets, don't you?
Yeah, pretty much.
But I mean, seriously, right?
But I want people to see the wine and just see the wine. I don't care if they think about me or whatever. I'm not part of it. I want the wine to speak profoundly, and I want people to think about where it's grown and I want them to see this property when they taste this wine.
Yeah, this property is pretty crappy.
Yeah.
The view's horrible. We went up in the Gator. I think everybody in the wine industry loves Gators. Everybody just wants to drive the Gator. My fat ass got in there, and I mean the views. I mean this does not give it justice. Just the whole property. I mean it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And the wines are okay. The wines are pretty good. Wines are very good. So how involved are your kids? How involved is your wife? I mean, you got them in all the labels. You know, we follow each other on Instagram, and I think it's great. You know, with having like 35 different wineries you work with and 3,000 wines you make, you seem like you got a pretty decent balance at home with your kids and with your wife, and you know, at least that's what you're portraying on social media.
Not true at all.
No,
I just rent those kids.
well, that's cool. Whatever. Hey, renting's better than owning. Rent to own. It's like rack. Remember rent to own?
No, I mean, I think it's really important to have that balance. And I mean, my kids are everything to me. I think they're just amazing and super fun. And they help out during harvest as much as they can, which usually involves a lot of roller skating around the winery. But my eldest is getting more and more involved. My youngest would drink any wine that was put in front of her.
I just want to tell you she's 21. Minus
10.
Yeah, that's okay. But let's be honest. We're all in the industry. I mean, my daughter's had wine before. I mean, she doesn't drink it regularly, but she had her first wine when she was 5. With a winemaker, wine owner, and she was interested. She was in thing, and the owner said to me, he was at my house for dinner. I said, absolutely.
Yeah.
And she's like, it was a Chardonnay I'll never forget from Napa Valley, and I said, Lily, how do you like it? She's like, it's really good, and it's just running out of her mouth, all drooling and stuff like that. But it's like, you know, we're taught, I think, in this industry, especially we have kids growing up in it, whether it's winemaking, whether it's distribution, whether it's the 64th rated food podcast in all of Russia, that would be me. I still don't understand why. But you respect it, you appreciate it. It puts food on the table.
Yeah. And I think, you know, we don't have in the United States, we don't have a culture of taste for kids
No.
as much as
Fast food, baby.
as people do in Europe. Yeah,
Yep, fast food.
And, I mean, I think that's changing in Europe and changing here as well. And so I've always told my kids that they could have a sip of wine if they could tell me 3 things it smells like. And I thought that was a good idea because it would make them think about.
Right. What are some of the crazy things they have told you?
Well, so, I mean, the success story that I have is my youngest, Isolde, when she was 5, she said, you know, Baba, can I have a sip of wine? And I said, well, tell me 3 things that it smells like. And she put the nose up to her glass and she said, it smells like cherries. It smells like Burgundy. And I was like flabbergasted because it was Corton from Toyobo, Corton Bresson.
So proud.
And I was like, how did you know it was a Burgundy? And to her, I realized that a Burgundy was just a smell. You know, she had heard so many times that, this, you know, smells like cherries and violets and it smells like Pinot Noir and it smells like Burgundy and it's a Burgundy. Mm-hmm. She had heard that so many times that
good guess. She
knew what it was.
Right.
And to her it was just this aroma. And I think that you know, kids, it's part of their developing mind is to learn about flavor, learn about taste. You know, it's a big part of your brain, smell and taste. Why not develop it? Mm-hmm. The first year I was at Trelon-Mondot, we're in the middle of Saint-Emilion, and I come in the morning for harvest, and the owner comes in a little later, and she says, we're going to have a group of kindergartners coming in to pick grapes today. And I'm like, oh, wow.
Child labor laws.
Yeah.
Maybe not in France.
That's odd. And so we had this group of about 30 kindergarten kids from a local school that came in, and they did a smell and taste session.
Amazing.
Of all sorts of different things. And they all smelled the wine. You know, we passed around a glass of 1990 Trelon-Mondot. They all smelled it. And then they picked grapes for the next hour.
Next 3 months.
I wish. They were better workers than the crazy gypsies that I had over.
I can only imagine. That's amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's an important part of a kid's education that we're not looking at. Mm-hmm. And it needs to be part of our education.
Yeah, I would hope so.
And I think as we as a nation become more interested in food and wine, that we'll see more of that, I think.
Yeah, I really think so. That's awesome. Aaron Pott, thank you so much for being on the Cork and Taylor Wine Podcast. I think you might have moved the needle and made me 53rd best food podcast in Russia.
I want to be big in Russia.
I do too. I know. Grande Mac. So thank you so much for listening to the Cork and Taylor Wine Podcast. I appreciate it. Just don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We're going to stick around. We're going to do a little Patreon bonus section with Aaron Pott. We're going to get deep and personal. It's a sip and spit section where it's supposed to be quick answers and it's lightning round, which it never is. So thank you a lot for listening. We appreciate it, and hope you join us next time on the Cork and Taylor Wine Podcast.